Heavenly Father, thank Thee for this time we can have a preview of the lesson again as we delve into one of the more important teachings of Jesus Christ, that the teaching on the Sabbath. And it's a subject near and dear to our hearts as Adventists. We pray that the Spirit will move in our midst to give us wisdom and give us teachable minds and hearts that we might better appreciate the gift of the Sabbath to man and better understand the lordship and the redemptive work of Jesus through the lenses of this very, very sacred day that You've given for our benefit. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, so we were having some glitches in the LCD projector this morning. I wanted to introduce the sermon this morning by telling you the story. So years ago, there was an Adventist that was interviewed over on TV. And they said, how do you define an Adventist? And this guy said, an Adventist is someone who doesn't eat pork and who hates the Pope. Okay. that's a concept before. I really don't care. Because we're in a postmodern age, postmodern people don't want to think. They want to look at truth. The problem is there's really no truth among postmoderns. That's the biggest problem. How do you reach a postmodern guy? You reach a postmodern guy who doesn't want to believe in absolute truth. How can you reach it? That's why a lot of our John MacArthur and some of our the more prominent theologians we have today, they said it's really a waste of time to talk to a postmodern mind. Okay, you know how postmodern gets converted? They only get converted when the Lord allows a crisis to happen in their lives. And they realize that only an absolute solution can be given by an absolute God. And they bend their knees and understand, yes, God, if you say it, it's got to go. It's not relative. Whatever you say, it goes. There's no other interpretation. It's yours. Until they come to a point where they admit that there's only one God. There's only one way. Conversion will not really come. Anyways, what's the deal? So when you talk about Seventh-day Adventist, there are two parts to that name. What are the two parts of the name? Seventh-day Sabbath and the second coming. That's the two S's. We talk about, and in between that, you go to sanctification, sanctuary, we talk about that, salvation. But basically, it's a seventh-day Sabbath and second coming. And before I leave for the Philippines, I will have 2 more Sabbaths with you. And I'll be glad that the pastor will rotate with me and Pastor David will rotate with me as well. But next week, we will go over about death and mortality. We'll talk about the doctrine of the soul next week, which is, again, the distinctive among us. And then the third Sabbath, which was the preview, will cover the second coming. So we will cover the Sabbath this afternoon. Next week, we will talk about immortality, which is one of the pervasive popular belief, which is not really biblical. And then after that, we will talk about the second coming. Okay, and we will cover the secret rapture part, that kind of stuff will go there. But right now, we will talk about Seventh-day Sabbath. So I picked a text passage that will help you teach the lesson this coming Sabbath if you're a teacher or if you're listening. John 5:15 to 17. John 5:15 to 17 gives you a 3-part outline of the lesson. There are 3 pictures of Christ in the Sabbath. What are the 3 pictures of Christ that you find in John 5? You will find the aim of Jesus Christ in the Sabbath. You will find the authority of Jesus in the Sabbath. And you will find the action of Jesus in the Sabbath. Okay, so as we read the verses. Okay. Meanwhile, there are several parts to the discussion this afternoon on the board. One part deals with the synoptics, and the other part is Johannine. What's the meaning of synoptic? When we talk about synoptic gospels, suffice it to note, we're talking about Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They say if you read the gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke has very similar structures, similar stories, and similar passages. That's why they call them synoptics. The synoptic gospels. They're similar to each other. So whenever they say synoptics, that means Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And then the fourth gospel, which is John, Johannine, they say a big portion of John deals with the closing scenes of Christ's ministry. That's why they're saying it's a passion gospel. It doesn't deal with the early parts of Christ's ministry. It talks about the closing scenes of Christ's ministry when he was about to die. So he deals with that in John. So it is different from the first three gospels. That's why they call it the Johannine gospel. So we have the synoptics and we have the Johannine view of things. In this particular case, we will cover the synoptic view of the Sabbath, and we will also cover the Johannine view of the Sabbath. It so happens that the Johannine view of the Sabbath is the most popular because the most intense controversy on the Sabbath is recorded in the Gospel of John. We'll go to that in a little while. So we'll just talk about the synoptics for now. So you'll have a background before we go to the actual. There are two basic groupings of the synoptics. Okay, we have the non-controversial passages. Okay, these are the non-controversial passages, and we have two controversial incidents. Remember, I'm talking about Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I'm not talking about John. Okay, the non-controversial passages is the atonement, or the burial and resurrection, the crucifixion, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ. Terry was just asking me about that on the first day of the week, okay, which is the Sabbath, okay? So if you have your Bibles, we got to start reading this. Somebody read Matthew 27, 62 to 66, and somebody get ready with Luke 23, 54.
On the next day, which followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered together to Pilate, saying, Sir, remember while he was still alive, how the deceiver said, After 3 days I will rise. Therefore command that the tomb may be secure until the third day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say to the people, He has risen from the dead. So the last deception will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, You have a guard. Go your way, make it secure as you know how. So they went and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone and sealing the guard.
All right. Okay. Somebody read Luke 23, 54. Somebody has it, 23:54? Actually, 54 to 56.
That day was the preparation day, and the Sabbath drew near.
And the woman who had come with him from Galilee followed after, and they observed the tomb and how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and fragrant oils, and they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandments.
Whoa, wow. Okay, look at the passage here. There are several observations. I hope you catch this. It's part of your materials. When was Jesus buried? It's very clear. It's called the day of preparation. The day of preparation is the day before the Sabbath. And what's the day of the Sabbath? We just discussed this earlier before we started the video, that the Jews did not have a name for days. They just called it first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh day. If the Sabbath is the seventh day, the day of preparation is the sixth day. In our reckoning, it's Friday. That's why when we celebrate Lent, we've got Good Friday, right? Holy Thursday, and all sorts of names that we put in terms of tradition. Okay, this is amazing. The record of Matthew says what happened after the day of preparation. Note, it says the next day, that is after the day of preparation. So Matthew starts in verse 62. What day did this happen?
Sabbath.
Happened on the Sabbath. This is really cool. You got, the guys who were so strict on working on the Sabbath, let's see what they attempted to do. Okay. They go to Pilate, and what did they say? Call the guards. Okay. Move the big stone. That's a lot of work. Okay. The same guys who were castigating Jesus because of Sabbath violation, it's because of intense hatred in their hearts without knowing Jesus, without intellectual honesty. They violated the Sabbath big time when Jesus died. Okay? And no commentaries here. These are non-controversial passages. They're just saying Joseph of Arimathea went to Pilate. He had the tomb, and they laid Jesus on the tomb. It's very interesting. Why did they lay Jesus on the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea? Because supposedly in the account, the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea was closest to the crucifixion site. And they couldn't carry Jesus so far because when did Jesus die? Friday afternoon. By the time they got all the spices, what was coming? The Sabbath was coming, and they didn't want to violate the Sabbath. You see how intense the respect of the people were to the Sabbath? Even if Jesus was dead, he said, oh, let's keep the Sabbath first. Before it's almost like, hey, let's have a funeral service because somebody died. All right, ooh, it's already Sabbath. Leave the body alone. We come back tomorrow and do that. That's amazing, okay? But that goes to show how the early church, when this was recorded, remember when Matthew was recorded, it was later in the first century. You're talking, the church was very, very respectful of the Sabbath. Okay, there are no explicit things, but this is what Dr. Bakyoki says, an argument for silence. You assume that the church respected the Sabbath. Okay? Now let's go to 4 references. There are 4 references. These are non-controversial passages. The first reference is the exorcism. A man was possessed by the demon. Somebody go to Matthew 2:21.
Then he arose, took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel.
Look 4:31. Sorry, I think that would look 4:31. I think that could have been look 4:31.
Then he went down to Capernaum, a city of Galilee, and was teaching them on the Sabbaths.
Okay, he was teaching, and this is not. I'm sorry, that was not 2. That was 12. Matthew 12:21. Okay. That's 21 and following. Actually, it starts with 22. I'm sorry. Okay, let me just read it for you. Okay. Then one was brought to him who was demon-possessed, blind and mute, and he healed him, so that the blind and the mute men both spoke and saw. And all the multitudes were amazed and said, could this be the son of David? And when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons. Okay, remember this, then he talks about the unforgivable sin. Okay? Somebody read Matthew 6, verse 2.
Therefore, when you hear irritable do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory from men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have the reward.
Okay? This is the Sermon on the Mount. Talks about drawing attention to themselves. Go to Matthew 13, verse 57.
So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house.
Okay. Remember I think this was the part of the Holy Land where we say the Mount of Precipice. The Mount of Precipice is, remember after Jesus spoke, they tried to push him into the precipice. I cannot forget this because this is, I want to take pictures, you know, at my age. I don't know, that just meant they don't have to take pictures. But the ladies, they want pictures. So we were standing by the Mount of Precipice. And then Eden said, take me a picture. Okay. It was pretty because we were standing on that mountain, that Mount of Precipice. And when you stand there, you will see the entire Jerusalem, okay? You will see all the cities. It was a panoramic view. So I took her picture. But this is basically Jesus was saying, he was preaching on the Sabbath, a prophet is not accepted in his own country. I probably should probably say this is an aside. I just say, what do we do this Sabbath school lesson preview every Sabbath afternoon? Most of the time we do this not for our church, but we do it for other people who watch the internet. Isn't it true? Because if you see my face again and again, every Sabbath you get bored. So there's not a whole lot of people interested in it, but a lot of people who benefit because they see me just once in a while, once a week. Probably. But the same was true with Jesus. When Jesus was when he was in Nazareth, they couldn't accept Jesus. Why couldn't they accept Jesus? There's got to be somebody coming from somewhere else. In Nazareth, you know, we're not known. More than that, what was the reputation of Jesus? He was born out of of immorality, right? Because supposedly the mother was pregnant before they got married. All this circulating. So it was on the Sabbath. They said prophet without honor. Now this is important. Luke 4:16.
So he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read.
One of the first passages that tells you that Jesus goes into the synagogue, gets a scroll from the scribe, covers his head, and started reading. He participated in the service in the synagogue. But what does the Bible say? As his custom was. I can remember my senior pastor was when I was in the district. I was an intern. And we were doing evangelism. He goes, he simplifies it for the people. All right. You guys, you want to go to church? You're in the Philippines. Gusto nyo dumalo? You want to go to church? When do you go to church? And then he goes, easy answer. If you follow Jesus, you will be in the right church. Where is Jesus every weekend? Where is Jesus on the Sabbath? As his custom was. Oh, it was the habit of Jesus to go, you follow Jesus, where will you be this coming weekend on the Sabbath? You should be in church. Very simple argument. But really, it's amazing that Jesus observed the Sabbath when he was here. He even attended the synagogue. You know, what's interesting, this is an aside. If you go to Acts, what was the primary MO of Paul whenever he does evangelism? What is the method of Paul? Where does he first go when he evangelizes?
The synagogue.
He looks for the synagogue. And when does he preach? He preaches on the Sabbath. No, Priscilla and Aquila, there were already some converted Gentiles there, okay? Remember, the missionaries during, of course. But you know what? You got to understand this. If you are a Gentile and you get converted to the Christian faith, where do you worship? You don't go to the Pantheon and worship all the Greek and the Roman gods. You got to worship where the Jews worship. And what was their church? They didn't have cathedrals like we have. They only had synagogues. So there's one very important principle in missions. People, we spend a lot of money for missions when in fact the territory is not responsive. So we waste our money. So the missiologists in the church counsel us to say, look for an area where the people are very responsive. And you throw your money there because it'll be worth it. Remember, evangelism is not you converting people because you cannot convert people. Evangelism is being sensitive to an area where people have been touched by God. We talked about this. And when people have been touched by God, then fine, do your health expo, do your medical outreach, and then reach out to those people. A lot of people will be harvested. That's what they're trying to say. That's why Paul's attempt was to go to the synagogue. Why did Paul go to the synagogue? Because more than likely, the Gentiles who attend those synagogues were either converts or their hearts have been touched by God. And if they do invite friends, the fact that they're in the synagogue, they're worshiping Yahweh, their hearts have been touched. The bottom line is, it was the custom of Jesus and the custom of Paul to go to the synagogue on the Sabbath, to attend church, in other words. What is the teaching of Jesus by his action in the synoptics? I'm not even talking about John. It was his custom to go to church on the Sabbath day. You know, it is sermon in action. If you'd like to see how Jesus taught about the Sabbath, he will teach you by his action that he was in church on the Sabbath day. And then, of course, there's the text in Matthew 24:20, which is about the end of the world and the signs, and say, pray that your flight be not on winter or on the Sabbath. Why did Jesus say that? Okay, all right. That's really, all right, okay. why do you avoid travel on the Sabbath? Why, they say Jesus is predicting the fall of Jerusalem, right? And when that happens, they don't know it's going to happen 70 AD, but when that happens, it's about to come. Make sure that you do not travel on the Sabbath or on winter, because it's difficult to travel on winter, right? The resources are unavailable. So if there was a parallel, if it's difficult to travel during winter, it is also difficult to travel on the Sabbath. You know why it's difficult to travel on the Sabbath?
There's no public transportation.
Okay, there's no public there, unless you have your own camel, right? Oh man, I don't want to ride. I rode the camel, I thought I'm going to die. It's kind of hard to ride the camel. Anyways, so we went to the Via della Rosa. You know, the Via della Rosa is the pathway that Jesus tread while carrying the cross to Mount Calvary. So there's I think there's over 30 stations to the Via della Rosa when you go to Calvary. So we structured our tour so that we tour the Sea of Galilee, we toured Mount Nebo, and the last place for us to tour is Calvary. And we did it on the Sabbath day. So we walked the streets of the Via della Rosa. All the stores were closed on the Jewish side, because it's the Sabbath. And then half of the stations were Muslim. They were open. All right. But during the time of Jesus, Muslims were not yet there. Okay. So during the time of Jesus in Israel, if you go about traveling on the Sabbath, there will be stores, all the stores will be closed. If you need things, you won't be able to get anything. And more than that, I told you, I was so excited. Oh, finally, we get to see the Wailing Wall. You know, the Western Wall of Jerusalem, there's people wailing there, praying. I was so excited. I take my camera, finally. I go like this. I'm taking the pictures. And they said the best time to go to the Wailing Wall is Sunset Friday, because they got the bar mitzvah, all really cool. They're dancing there, Shalom. Then while I was doing this, Rabbi comes to me. No camera, Shabbat. Okay, all right, okay. with the camera on mine, then I walked to the Wailing Wall. Then I say, I'm kind of tempted to take away the camera and go like this. And then I saw some Israeli soldiers with the automatic weapons. Okay, you stay there. I'm not doing anything anymore. All right. They were so strict because our lady companions couldn't go with us. There was a section for the ladies, a section for the men. Okay. When we found the 3 ABN over there. And then I told you and then we said, let's attend church the following day. It was Friday. We attended Sabbath morning. We looked for a Messianic Jewish synagogue. You know what's Messianic? These are Jewish Christians. We found one. But their service is not till 10:30, and it's on a Sunday. This should be Sabbath. I don't know why. They understand that. So, okay, fine. We cannot find a Messianic Jewish synagogue. Let's go to a Jewish synagogue, let's say, and let's just attend the Jewish synagogue, and let's see what happens during the Sabbath when the Jews. So we found a Jewish synagogue. On their way, again, the women were separated from the men. We cannot go together. The women have to go to the second floor. We go to the first floor. And then you know how the Jews are so cute on the Sabbath day? Because even the little boys and girls, they're dressed up. The little boys have hats, with all those trinkets. It's really cool. So Eden was so enamored with that, Eden gets a camera. He takes the picture of the little boy. And the boy goes, no picture! Shabbat! Very strict. They're very strict. So Jesus knew there were so many restrictions on the Sabbath day. So he said, if you're planning to leave so that the fall of Jerusalem does not overtake you, make sure you plan not to live on a Sabbath day or in winter. Because if you live on winter and a Sabbath day, you will have a tough time, especially if you have family members with you. Okay, just one point of note. Remember, the Jerusalem fell under the Romans not during winter. It was not the winter. Okay, remember why was what was the prophecy of Jesus? They will not leave a stone unturned, right? They turned over the stone. How was that fulfilled? You know the story, right? They went into Jerusalem, and while they were setting the temple and Jerusalem on fire, they saw gold, melted gold, flowing. The Roman said, "There's gold in there." You know what they did? Turned over all the stones to get the gold. Okay? But the bottom line is that happened not in winter. So here's the question. Why in the world will Matthew include the Sabbath in the instruction of Jesus about travel during winter, when in fact it was in winter? Supposedly, it hasn't happened yet, okay? Because they were not written together. But more than that, they know that there was a restriction on the Sabbath because of the respect for people on the Sabbath, as they were restrictions in winter. Okay, so these are the references for the Sabbath. And there are two controversial incidents in the synoptics. What are the controversial incidents? You go to Mark 2:23 to 28. Remember, they were plucking the ears of corn, right? So they were hungry. And plucking the ears of corn were, that's legit. You're not stealing. Because they allow you. In certain parts of the Philippines, they even allow you to do that. Remember when we were poor when we were in the Philippines. So when I go hungry, I go to the market. They have a lot of rice there. Get some rice without being cooked. You can eat. That's what they were doing. And what was the problem during the time? The Pharisees said, "Why are you violating the Sabbath?" Notice, who were plucking the ears of corn? Disciples. What was the question? Let's go to Mark 2. Somebody read Mark 2:23 to 28.
Now it happened that he went through the grain field of the Sabbath, and as they went, his disciples began to pluck the head of grain. And the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why do they do what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and hungry, he and those with him? How he went into the house of God in the days of Abiathar, the high priest, and ate the showbread, which is not lawful to eat except for the priests, and also gave some to those who were with him. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for men, and not men for the Sabbath. Therefore, the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath."
Okay, you read the account of Mark, okay? We go back to that a little while because there's a very big declaration there. Somebody go to Luke 6, 1 to 5.
Now it happened in the second Sabbath after the first of Judah, the grain fields, and his disciples plucked the heads of grain and ate them, rubbing them in their hands. And some of the Pharisees, Luke 6.
Yeah. That's right.
And some of the Pharisees said to them, "Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?" But Jesus answering them said, "Have you not even read this, what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him, how he went into the house of God, took and ate the showbread, and also gave some to those with him, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat. And he said to them, the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath."
Okay, so you read in Matthew, it says, how come your disciples are violating the Sabbath, right? Here in Luke, what was the question? It's not about the disciples. Look at verse 2. And some of the Pharisees said to them, "Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?" They were directly confronting Jesus Christ. And I don't think Jesus was thrusting the wheat. He wasn't like, he was just, his disciples were hungry. Jesus didn't care. A lot of times he fasted. They were confronting Jesus Christ. And here comes the first confrontation. Jesus basically saying, hey, we're not violating the Sabbath. Follow me. They're not violating the Sabbath. And what story did it tell? The story of David. Okay? Only the priests were allowed to eat the bread. Okay? But did David eat of the bread? Yes, and even fed his men. What was Jesus saying? There is an exception to the law that when life is at stake, life becomes more important than the law. Okay, so basically he's just saying, look, my disciples are hungry. They need to eat. What's more important, your rules or the need for somebody to be satisfied? That's what he's trying to say. Okay, so I'm not violating the Sabbath. If David was able to do this, I'm able to do this too. And it's amazing. Where did David go? He went to the temple. And if you read the passage, alongside the periphery of this passage, they said that somebody greater than the temple is here. Who is that somebody? That's Jesus Christ. Basically, there were two things that Jesus Christ did, and we'll go to that in a little while. He said, hey, allow them because they need to eat. They're in need of food. That's why they can take whatever they can. You know, it's what's legitimate to get the trash. You're not stealing that way, okay? But more than that, he said, hey, it's not only legitimate for them to do that based on the Mosaic law and the rabbinical law, it is also legitimate because I am greater than the temple and I'm allowing them to do it. Wow. Now you see a glimpse of what Jesus is trying to do here. He's not only talking about Sabbath observation, he was using the Sabbath to prove his authority. Okay? We'll go there a little when we go to John. Second, somebody read Mark 3, 1 to 6.
And he entered the synagogue again, and a man was there who had a
Withered hand. So they watched him closely, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, step forward. Then he said to them, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill? But they kept silence. And when he had looked around at them with anger, being grieved by the hardness of their heart, he said to the man, stretch out your hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored as whole as the others. Then the Pharisees went out and immediately plotted with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him.
Cool. So the guy healed somebody and they plot to kill him. Okay, this is really weird. You read the passage. You can see the intense hatred of the Pharisees. They're not after the law. They're not after truth. They were after Jesus Christ. They wanted to kill him. They're just strict jealousy. Here's the point. You will notice this in some of the controversial healings in the gospel. Each time something happens on the Sabbath, Christ asked the question, you tell me, is it good? What was the question? Okay, there you go. Is it lawful to do good or to do evil? Okay, here's the story. If you look at the rabbinical laws during the time of Jesus, even if it's a Sabbath and your oxen and your animal, domestic, needs to eat and needs to drink water, you are allowed to untie that oxen because they're tied so that they can drink. And even the little kid is able to do that. Okay? And remember when Jesus said in Luke 4:16 when he preached in the temple, he quoted from Isaiah 61, in the synagogue, he said, I have come to set at liberty the captives. Yeah. How do you set somebody the captives? You unloose it, okay? You take away, you let loose the oxen, let loose of so that they can enjoy the Sabbath. It is saying, if you can let loose of the oxen, why can you not let loose a man? In fact, you say if you're a shepherd and you had a sheep that was lost, you can avoid the synagogue, you can spend the whole day looking for the sheep. That's the way they valued animals. What was Jesus trying to say? You have such a warped interpretation. You value animals more than you value man. And he's saying, I'm looking at the principle of the Sabbath. The principle of the Sabbath and the principle of the law is not to kill men, but to bring life. And you perverted the law so that now it kills. And men suffer because of the way you treat the law. So it's very important here that Jesus never admitted that he violated the Sabbath. Okay? Please do not forget that. He did disagree with the interpretation of the Pharisees in terms of Sabbath observance. Are you following? The Pharisees said, you cannot heal on the Sabbath. And then Jesus said, no, that's not what the law says. The law says, save lives and do good on the Sabbath. So Jesus is basically saying, I am not violating the Sabbath. In fact, I am fulfilling the purpose of the Sabbath. Did you guys get that? It's very important. Jesus never admitted to violating the Sabbath. Who said Jesus was violating the Sabbath? I'll never forget this. It wasn't Jesus who said that. It was the accusers of Jesus that said he was violating the Sabbath. Because people are using that to say, hey, the Sabbath is now abolished. See? Because Jesus violated the Sabbath. Don't ever forget, he never said he violated the Sabbath. Who said he violated the Sabbath? His accusers. So if you say the Sabbath is abolished because Jesus violated the Sabbath, you're not following Jesus. You are actually echoing his accusers. Are you following? It's very important. So the men with their hand, let's always say it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Jesus is basically saying the Sabbath was actually given so that it will be for the good of men. And here comes the signature text of the synoptics about the Sabbath. What does it say? The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. I got to understand this. Why did Jesus not say the Sabbath was made for Israel? What did he say? The Sabbath was made for man. That's important, okay? People miss that. He was talking to the Jews. He was talking to the Pharisees. Why in the world did he say the Sabbath was made for man and not say the Sabbath was made for Israel or the Israelites?
Adam and Eve were not the Israelites.
Right? Yeah, because the time span of the validity of the Sabbath extends beyond the history of the children of Israel. Before the Sabbath was given, the Sabbath regulations were given to the children of Israel, the Sabbath was already there from creation. And what they're saying, today, even today, the Sabbath is valid. Not only for the Jew, it is valid for everyone. Because they say the Sabbath was made for human beings and not human beings for the Sabbath. Therefore, Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. Did you get that? Okay, so what do we gather? In terms of the testimony of the synoptics, you look at all these passages. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, what was their burden? They wanted to prove that the Sabbath was for the benefit of man. Okay? Did you get that? What is the teachings of the Sabbath in the synoptics? They want to prove that the Sabbath was a gift from God for the benefit of man. You can read that in all of these passages. Jesus, as it was recorded, told the people the Sabbath was given as a blessing to you. It's a gift. Don't pervert the Sabbath. It wasn't meant to break you. It wasn't meant to give you problems and a hard time. It wasn't meant for you to suffer. It was meant to be a blessing for you. That was what the synoptics said. Okay, now that we're done with the synoptics, let's go to the Johannine materials, which is the Gospel of John. There are only 4 passages in the Gospel of John that deals with the Sabbath. That's John 5, which we're reading right now, verse 9 and following. Then you go to John 7, 22 to 23. Then you got John 9, 14 to 16, and John 19 to 31. Okay? Let's process this one at a time. John 5 is about healing of the paralyzed man at the pool of Bethesda. Okay? That's a story about the healing of the paralyzed man at the pool of Bethesda. Remember, right? Why was the paralyzed man at the pool of Bethesda? What was the belief? Yeah, when the angel troubles the water, the first one to get into the water gets healed. Okay, and you know, I've been coming back here so many years. There's a problem. Because they say that you'll be healed if the first one to go there. How can I go there? I'm paralyzed. Okay, unless somebody puts me in there. It's a funny story. And then Jesus heals the man, you know. This is worth an entire sermon. Talks about salvation by works. You know, you put your water. In fact, Jesus is right there to give you grace, so you can be healed. That's the bottom. But Jesus basically said, what did he instruct the man? Take up your bed and walk. And then when he saw him out there, see, you are well. Sin no more, that nothing worse may happen to you. You know what they suggest? They suggest that this guy did something wrong. He brought upon his paralysis to himself. Okay. What is the application today? They told you not to text and drive. Okay. Text, you have an accident, you get paralyzed, you did it to yourself. Okay. If God in His mercy heals you, here's the message of Jesus. Hey, stop sinning. Because if you don't stop sinning, you might end up going back to the pool of Bethesda. You'll be paralyzed again. Anyways, that's the story. Okay? That's the first story. And then they're asking, who did this to you? Who healed you? And then he finally found out that it was Jesus who healed him. That was the first story. And the second is in John 7, 22 to 23. Obviously, this is a reflection of Jesus' healing of the paralyzed, the paralytic in the pool of Bethesda. And what was the argument of Jesus here? Moses gave you circumcision, and you circumcise a man on the Sabbath. If on the Sabbath a man receives circumcision, so the law of Moses may not be broken, are you angry with me because on the Sabbath I made a man's whole body well? Do not judge my appearance, but judge with right judgment. Follow me. What is Jesus saying here? He's basically saying, you circumcise on the Sabbath day, and it is not illegal. Are you following? When was the baby born then? The baby was born the previous Sabbath because you're circumcised on the 8th day. Right? So the previous Sabbath, the baby was born. But Jesus is saying, if you allow circumcision on the Sabbath day, what is the purpose of the circumcision? Because that's a sign of the covenant among Israel, right? And Jesus is saying, if you allow the mutilation of a particular part of a baby, a part of the body of a baby on the Sabbath, so that he can conform to the covenant of God, what is wrong by making the whole body whole? You know? That's only part of the baby. Here, I'm making the entire body whole, not just a part of him. You see the argument of Jesus? See, you guys are very consistent with your laws, inconsistent with your laws. You allow circumcision when, in fact, I'm healing the entire body. What's better? Heal the entire body so that the whole body will conform to God. Okay? Third, John 9, 14 to 16. He heals a man born blind. There's only one problem. How did Jesus heal the man? He spit on the ground. Yeah? And then it's a poultice. They said poultice. Put it together, put a clay. And then put it on the man's eyes. And after putting it on the man's eyes, he asked him to go to the pool of Fil-Am and wash over there. And it's a very, very fascinating story if you read that, right? And then the authorities got mad because Jesus healed on the Sabbath. And then they scolded the man. Finally, the man said, and they talked to the parents of the man. What did the parents say? Why don't you ask him? He's old enough to speak for himself. So he said, after all the big arguments, the man says, I don't know what you're talking about. All I can tell you, I once was blind, but now I see. That's very powerful, not in the song, okay? So, but that's what it's saying. Healing a man born blind on the Sabbath day. Okay? And then, lastly, the last reference by John is John 19:31. John 19:31 has something to do with the crucifixion. What did they do? They made sure that Jesus was already dead. Why? Because the Jews did not allow anybody to hang on a tree on the Sabbath day. Okay, so this is the synoptics saying that the Sabbath is a blessing. Once you start reading John had a different purpose in mind for the Sabbath. John meant to tell the people that through the Sabbath, Jesus will be the Messiah. Jesus will be the Redeemer. He will be the healer. The Sabbath was not just for the benefit of man. The Sabbath was to reveal the glory of Jesus Christ. Okay? Two different perspectives. Are they both valid? Yes, they're valid. The Sabbath is beneficial to us, according to the synoptics. But according to the Johannine literature, the Sabbath was meant as an instrument, as a medium towards Jesus being glorified as the Messiah. It's a messianic purpose that Jesus had. Okay, after that, yeah. Mm.
This kind of a healing of the blind man when they had poultice.
Uh-huh.
He could have healed came just like that? Why did he have to ask him to you go ahead and then wash?
It's a very important question and related to the lesson too. Actually, there were beliefs during the time of Jesus that there is healing properties in saliva. Okay? And you put it together. We can expand on that. But I don't think that was the main purpose. I think the main purpose of Jesus was to prove to them that he has authority over the Sabbath. He could have just said, you can see. And no, because we will read that in a little while. My Father is at work and so am I. I'm working. Oh, don't ever forget this. Nowhere in the gospel will you find Jesus associating the Sabbath to rest. And explicitly saying that you should rest on the Sabbath. In the contrary, he said, my Father is working and I'm also working. And we're working on the Sabbath day. We'll talk to that in a little while. Okay? But people miss that. But that's a very good question, Chris. Why in the world go to that elaborate procedure? And why not heal him right there? Why send him to the pool of Siloam? That's, I think, one of the main reasons why he did that was Jesus was asserting his lordship over the Sabbath. He was asserting that I have authority here. More, in fact, I wrote the laws in the Old Testament, okay? And I have authority. And if my Father tells me to do this, I follow the Father, I can change the way the law is applied. Remember, let me ask you, did Jesus say that he violated the Sabbath? He did not. His enemy said he violated the Sabbath, but Jesus repeatedly said, no, you do not understand your law. The purpose of the Sabbath is to do good. So he was justifying his Sabbath healings. What was the other justification? Not only to do good. Hey, it's justified because I say so. And I am the Son of Man. That's the argument that we'll go into here. Okay? So after that's done, and that's done, you finally teach the lesson. And no more time. But with that background, with the pick and choose your materials, this is the summary of the lesson, if you want to teach the lesson. There's only 3 points, so you got enough time for the 35 minutes or so. John 5:15-17, you see the aim, the authority, and the action of Jesus Christ. Let's look at John 5:15. Somebody read that. Okay. The paralytic was healed by Jesus, was asked who healed him, and he finally acceded to the fact that it was Jesus who healed him. We talk about the circumcision already. You notice in John 5, we will go there in John 5:17. What was the aim of Jesus Christ in the Sabbath in this particular case? Did he just heal? Did he just heal the paralytic? No. What was the final result of that healing? He found out who Jesus was, right? He found out that Jesus was the Messiah. What is the aim of the healing miracles in John? The aim of the healing miracles in John was to prove that Jesus was the Messiah. Okay? Whereas the synoptic says the Sabbath was given so that it will benefit men, John is saying all the miracles were done so that you will know who Jesus is. It had the messianic purpose, a messianic aim. All the healing miracles had a messianic aim because the healing occurred so that people will know that Jesus is the Messiah. Now let's clarify that. What's the Messiah anyways? What's the meaning of Messiah? Messiah is a deliverer, right? Why deliverer? Because they've been under foreign occupation by so many nations. Right now, while Jesus was talking to them, they were under Rome. They were thinking that Jesus will come, the Messiah will come. And when the Messiah comes, they'll be liberated from Rome. They'll be as great as the kingdom of David. Remember, the everlasting covenant with David? Nothing, no nation was greater than the kingdom when David was king. We want to go back to have sovereignty even over the Romans. And then Jesus performed the healings and said, hey, really the healings is for you to understand that I am the Messiah. And this is where the sobering thought comes in. Jesus took pains to make them understand that the Messiah is here not to occupy worldly governments. What did he tell Pilate? If my kingdom were of this world, my men will fight. But my kingdom is not of this world. He said, the way to conquer the world is not to unseat the emperor in Rome. The way to conquer the world is to reach men's hearts with my love. That's what he's saying. And the purpose of the Messiah is to be the anointed of God, the elect of God, to transform the whole world, transform their hearts. Let the kingdom of God begin in the hearts of men. How do you do that? It's through the Messiah. That was the aim, okay, for them to know who Jesus is. I'm going to read verse 16.
For this reason, the Jews persecuted Jesus and sought to kill him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath.
All right. Does that text make sense to you? For this reason, what?
Persecuted Jesus.
They were persecuting Jesus, and they wanted to kill him. Why? Because of what he did on the Sabbath? Is that enough reason to kill somebody? Oh, there's a deeper reason what it is. Here's the logic of the Jews. The Jews regarded the Sabbath day to be very sacred. You mess up with the way we observe the Sabbath. You're messing up with us. Yeah, you like that? Did Jesus mess up with the Sabbath? He did not mess up with the Sabbath. He tried to explain to them the right manner of Sabbath observance. Right? What did he correct? He corrected the misapplication of the Jews in terms of the Sabbath. Did the Jews like that? No. Basically, Jesus is saying, oh, you're observing the Sabbath wrong. And then the guy said, we've been doing this for hundreds of years. You come here, you say it's wrong. On what basis does Jesus say it's wrong? Because my Father told me. And that's why you read, the reason why they want to call Jesus was he wasn't only violating the Sabbath, he was also claiming equality with God. It doesn't say here explicitly, but you'll read the peripheral, the contextual passages here. There was no problem with keeping with the Sabbath so much as Jesus claiming that he was the Father who asked him to do what he was doing on the Sabbath day. That's blasphemy, okay? And because it's the Father, he claims to be following what the Father says, he was claiming equality with God. So they're stoning him because of blasphemy. But note the important connection here. Jesus is associating explicitly his Sabbath healings to what? To his divinity, to his Father, to his claim to divinity. The Sabbath was to prove that Jesus was God and he was Messiah. That's basically what he's trying to say. Well, what was the intent of John? From the very beginning, in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was, was God, the Word was God. You go to John 20, all of these have been written. He said, if I were to write everything that Jesus did, there's not enough room to cover all that he did. But this has been written so that you might believe in him, and by believing, you may be safe. He's talking about the Messianic purpose. But Jesus basically saying, hey, because the Father tells me to do this, I have the authority to do it. And then the Jews said, the Sabbath is one of the most sacred of our laws, and you're messing up with our laws? Are you greater than the Father? Are you greater than Moses? And Jesus is saying, I'm telling you, there's somebody greater than Moses. It was God who gave it to Moses, and it's God telling me to do what I'm doing. Will that not upset the Jews? They upset the Jews, because God, the Son, Jesus, is saying, I got authority over the Sabbath, which you do not have. Okay, now the third part, which is the most interesting part. Somebody read verse 17.
Jesus answered them, my Father has been working until now, and I have been working.
Okay, think the way the Jews were thinking during the time of Jesus when he was teaching this. What are you supposed to do on the Sabbath day? So it's supposed to stop working. For them, stop working, all right? What happens if God stops working? Yeah, everything stops and we're dead, right? So somehow, God must be exempted when it comes to the Sabbath. He cannot stop working, because if he stops working, we'll all be dead. The universe will stop going. That's the way they thought. All right? So Jesus is saying, Jesus harped on that idea, and he said, hey, even on the Sabbath, the Father's working. And the Jews said, oh, yeah, you're right, because if the Father stops working, we'll all be dead. Okay? That's what they're saying. If it ended there, it would have been fine. Unfortunately, Jesus added something. What did he say?
And
My Father is working until now, and I am working. That made their blood boil. Dude, you're already messing up with the Sabbath observance here, and now you're saying the Father is working, and you're also working with the Father, and you're claiming that you're God and you're working with God. It made a big problem there, okay? Well, what was Jesus trying to say? Yeah, we're not just dealing with the Sabbath here. We're dealing with a relationship with my Father and relationship with God. I'm related to God. And my food is to do the will of one He sent me. And whatever I do on the Sabbath, it is what my Father tells me. And therefore, what I do on the Sabbath when I heal is the will of God, because I am God. That's why people wanted to kill Him. Okay, now let's hop on this, because this is a controversial issue. I know your class will discuss this. We always say you must rest on the Sabbath day. But what does Jesus say? My Father is working, and so am I. So if God the Father and the Son's working on the Sabbath day, shouldn't we also work? All right, I can go to work and go to the office. That's not what it's saying. Okay, what kind of work was the Father doing?
You standing up in front is the work of God. Right what you're doing right now is the work
Yes. I started the lesson study this morning, and they asked me to teach. It took me a while before I took over straight because the computer wasn't working. You know the busiest day I had this week? I practically didn't sleep Thursday night. I went to work at 4. I went home about 5:30 in the morning. That's nothing compared to what I'm doing today. Okay? Because I had to prepare for a small Bible study group last night. It's Friday. I had to teach the Sabbath school this morning. I had to preach the sermon. And I had to teach this afternoon. Okay. Now tell me if that's not work, okay? That's a lot of work. Okay? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, but when I was reading this, he said, Jesus did not explicitly say rest on the Sabbath. He said work on the Sabbath, okay? Jesus was talking about God's redemptive and sustaining work on the Sabbath. God doesn't stop sustaining and redeeming man. He will only stop when we get to the final Sabbath rest when He comes back. And Jesus is saying, if God works on sustaining and redeeming man, I should also work with Him and do the same thing. And that's all true for you. It's all true for me. What do you do as work? That doesn't mean you can go back and earn money for a living. That's not what He's saying here. He's saying engage with the work of God to save souls and sustain souls and give my grace. One of the most controversial and yet very, very important point you want to give to your class this coming Sabbath. The Sabbath is not essentially to stop and rest and sleep. Sabbath is to do productive work for the kingdom of God. That's why a lot of people don't like the Sabbath. For a lot of people, Sabbath for them every weekend is only 1 hour. Right? Not even half day. Well, a lot of people, a lot of our members in church, it's half day. Sabbath for them is half day. We talk about this, right? We'll talk about this during the second coming. We talk about the third angel's message. We talk about the mark of the beast. We talk about Vatican and all. Do they observe Sunday keeping in the Vatican today? Dr. Barriero, we still alive. No, they do not go to Mass Sundays in Italy, in Rome. When do they go to Mass? They go Saturday night. You know why they go Saturday night? That's a 1 hour Mass. So that they can watch football the following day. This is at the seat of, I was telling Lourdes said, Pastor Bing, looks like it's troublesome in the Middle East. We gotta go to the Holy Land. Why don't we just go to Rome? Okay, so I said, yeah, right into the belly of the beast. But even right there in the center of the prophetic proclamation that we have, people don't care about the Sabbath. What we're saying here in number 3 is the Sabbath is not cessation of activity and stopping and sleeping. There's part of it. There's physical rest. But really, the Sabbath is meant for you to be productive in God. Stop doing your own thing and do things for God. Really, let me put it this way. A lot of us probably do, no, not Terry. Terry, do you do a lot of desk work, Terry?
No,
Okay.
I'm a driver.
Okay, so you're driving. So rest for you should actually sit still, lie down, or take a nap. Now, for a lot of people who do desk work all day, what would be a good break for them? Walk or play, right? An activity. Yeah, an activity because you've been sitting all day. So look at it. Make that a really nice sound. Okay, okay, that's okay. All right. Really, what Jesus is saying, throughout the whole week, you've been doing your own thing. By the time the Sabbath comes, take a break. How do you take a break? You do not stop working. Stop thinking about your work and think about my work, and let's do things together. That's the right concept of the Sabbath. That's why the Sabbath cannot just be 2 hours or 1 hour a week. The Sabbath is a 24-hour day looking for a period. Yeah, Cleo saw me writing here. Since he went back to eat her lunch. And then Cleo said, aren't you eating? Normally I don't eat. Why do I don't eat? Do I tell you I fast? I don't think about fasting. I just keep on going. Because when you're so busy with God, you don't care about eating, right? That's the way to fast. Not to give yourself a hard time. And I don't have problems with that. I can go on and on, Sabbath day. Now I'm able to go on and not collapse. It's God's thing in the Sabbath, because that's the way you rest in the Sabbath. Do as much as you can for the Lord. It's very radical. People have not looked at the Sabbath from this end. My father has been working, and so am I. And because the Father is working in the sustenance and the redemption of men, so should you engage in special activity on the Sabbath day to sustain and redeem men to the grace of God. It's very important. 3 pictures. The aim is to prove that Jesus is Lord and Savior. To prove that Jesus is the authority of your life on the Sabbath day. He's Lord of the Sabbath, Lord of what you do. And the opportunity for you to work with Him on the Sabbath day. Concentrate on what you can do with Him. So it's a very appropriate text for Sabbath and worship. It's found in Isaiah 58, 13 and 14. If somebody can read that, we will wrap up our study for this afternoon with the text. Before somebody reads it, I shared it with you in my sermon this morning. The signature text of worship in terms of John Piper is Psalms 37:4. What does Psalm 37:4 say? Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. How many of you have listened to the about 40-second video clip of Victoria Austin? What I mentioned in my sermon this morning? Go to YouTube, you see that. Yeah, I was looking at her face. When we come to church and we worship, we're not really doing it for God. Yeah, we can look at it that way, but really, we're doing it for ourselves. You say, when you obey God, He's not really into doing it for God. You're obeying it for us. So go ahead and do good and do it for yourself. Okay. I think she misworded. It was a miswording of what she was trying to convey. I think what she was trying to say is, when you engage in worship, you will find happiness and joy by worshiping God. Right? She misstated what she wanted to do. The irony of worship is you do not find happiness by pursuing happiness, by searching for happiness. The irony is, if you pursue God, then true happiness comes to you. Okay? So that's worship. Worship is pursuing God. And the moment you pursue God, watch God give you the delights of your heart. That's what Psalms 37 says. That's in essence a summary of what worship is all about. Now, is the Sabbath connected to this delight, this worship of delight in God? Let's read Isaiah 58, 13 and 14.
The Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on the holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words. Then you shall delight yourself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth, and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. The mouth of the Lord has spoken.
What does Isaiah say? What will you call the Sabbath? Wow. And call the Sabbath a delight. There's a delight right here. How many people come to church every weekend to delight on the Sabbath? Remember the exercise we had when we were still growing up as Seventh-day Adventists? You get that pole. Friday afternoon, when it's about to be sunset, you try to push the sun up so it doesn't set, right? And then Saturday afternoon, you want to really watch that TV? Pull it down, pull it down. That's what we do with the Sabbath. Because why? Because we think the Sabbath makes our life miserable because we cannot do things on the Sabbath. That's the problem, because they don't understand this action right here. Well, Isaiah got it right. He said, if you come to a point in your life where you call the Sabbath a delight, what does it mean? How do you make the Sabbath a delight? You don't make the Sabbath a delight by doing things for yourself. What does it say? You do things not your own way, not your own walk, not your own agenda, but do everything for God and call it a delight. What will He do to you? What's the promise? 14, then you shall delight yourself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. Wow. People will only grasp this when you teach your lesson this coming Sabbath. Do you realize if you find delight in the Sabbath, by setting aside everything that you have and going with God's agenda, God will give you the delights and pleasures of your heart. That's true worship. That's why Sabbath and worship are so connected to each other. It's finding delight in God. Throw away the stick. Don't push the sun. Don't pull it down. Okay? Look for God and delight in Him. You'll understand how important and how meaningful the Sabbath will be. All right. I'm done. You got questions? You got 25, about 5-10 minutes left. Any questions? Oh, it's a good question. Is it all right to go to sleep on the Sabbath? Well, I was talking to Abner. He said, Miriam is very close to me. You know, Miriam's Abner's sister. What happened to Miriam? She's in a ventilator right now. You see, she was the one who invited me to have a weekend retreat in Vancouver, Canada. Yeah, so evidently they saw her slumped on the floor. And they found out that only 30% of the kidney is functioning. So they're readjusting all sorts of her vitals. And is it okay for Miriam to sleep today, not attend church? You think so, right? You think so, because if you're shut in, you're bedridden, I think you can watch it live, okay? Now, if you're up and about, you can move. Is it okay to just watch the live stream at home, where you don't have to dress up? You'll be on your bed. Let's see. Children's story. You're lying down, you're watching the thing. Will that be okay? So already talk about that. You cannot grow without going to church because you were made to be part of the church of God. Help edify the church, okay? Now, but is it okay to sleep on the Sabbath? What's that? Is that clear? They cannot. Is it? Let's rephrase the question. Is it okay to take a nap on the Sabbath? You know the problem with taking naps on the Sabbath? It is not a nap. After you eat potluck, you go home, you lie down. Next time you open your eyes, it's sunset. I don't know. For some reason, that nap on the Sabbath is really cool. In Filipino, it's, ang tawag doon sa pag natutulog ka, mahimbing ang tulog. What's mahimbing in English? See, REM, rapid eye movement. It's a deep sleep. When you take a nap, it's a deep nap. Okay. You know, I think that's not by accident. somebody helps you take a nap on the Sabbath who doesn't want to do the work of God. Okay? I don't want to tell you the name of whoever that guy is, okay? But he does that to you. I remember, I remember we helped out the crusade of a Baptist friend in Manila, and the church board reprimanded us. Why are you singing for the Antichrist? It's funny. So you're watching the evangelist. I wanted to listen to an evangelist. He's a Baptist. I sit down. Didn't even smile. He goes, stood up, big voice. He goes, how many of you have met Taning? Salubong niyo na ba si Taning? Have you met Taning? You know what Taning does? He pulls your eyes while I'm preaching, and he sits down on your eyes. So your eyes become very heavy, and you sleep. Taning is the nickname of Satan. Sataning. I couldn't forget. I was laughing. This is the guy's sense of humor. It's okay to take a nap and sleep, but be very careful because it becomes deep sleep. Okay.
In the satellite.
Sure. When I did my week of prayer in AUP among the faculty members, so in the student body. So I asked some of the faculty members, what is the spiritual need of most of the teachers in AUP? I said, Kuya Bing, my cousin said, there are some faculty members here who just stays at home and listens to the radio. Because they have a radio station, they broadcast it live. It's not even live streaming. They don't attend church anymore. They stay at home and listen to the radio. Is that okay?
Because they are tired. No.
So how do you answer Rufus' question? Is it okay to take a nap or sleep on a Sabbath day? What's it? Cleo said, 30 minutes will be fine. How about 35?
Pressure is then so you can go on with the work.
You're right. Okay. Yeah, you can take a nap while we're doing Sabbath school lesson review. As long as you don't have the camera pointed at you. Okay. Here's my point. You know what we're doing now? We're going into the rabbinical details of Sabbath keeping. Right? We're falling into the trap of the Pharisees. That's not what Jesus said. All that Jesus says is, take delight in me on the Sabbath day. Did Jesus sleep? Yes, he did. He slept so soundly, there was Typhoon Haiyan blowing. And the disciples were, Lord, we're dying and you're sleeping. Was it wrong for Jesus to sleep? Yeah, because there was no problem. He had the connection with God. I don't care, Cleo, you can sleep all day Sabbath if God tells you. You know what I mean? I don't make the call. You make the call in delighting in God. If part of the delight is taking a rest, taking a break to do something, by all means do it. But let's not squabble over napping 30 minutes or 35 minutes or 15 minutes or doing it when and after or going to church or live streaming. Forget those. All that Isaiah is saying, if you will call the Sabbath a delight and find happiness and joy being with me on the Sabbath day, I will cause you to mount on the hills and I'll give you pleasures. Please warn your class, don't get trapped into the nitty-gritty details of the rabbinic Sabbath laws. That's going to mess your Sabbath up. It will be so miserable. Instead, find the delight of seeing the grace of God on a Sabbath day. Right? I remember one elder in our church. I just this one last moment. He had personal ministries director that years ago, who didn't prepare Sabbath, so nothing. He goes home, takes a nap every Sabbath. So we at the church board, look at our church. Where are the officers of the church? Sabbath afternoon, taking a nap. And then the elder goes, there's nothing wrong if you get nothing to do. Just take a nap, right? Okay. Okay. You laugh. You think it was funny. It's so funny now. All I'm trying to say is, you will only take a nap if you're not doing anything. And I'll be very honest with you. If I lose this Sabbath school lesson preview, Sabbath afternoon, I will have to find something else to do. Because otherwise, my alternative is to go home and take a nap. a 5-hour nap. I don't want to spend my Sabbath afternoon with a 5-hour nap. I'd much rather look for, if I need to go to feed my hungry children, spend about 2 hours there, because I don't have a Sabbath school lesson review, I'll go there. Because the way the Sabbath is, it's a delightful adventure with my Lord every weekend. It's not a miserable day. It's a delightful time with God doing things. Like that?
Better do the Sabbath.
Please emphasize that in your class this coming Sabbath. And tell them it's okay to take a nap. As long as God says you can take a nap, okay? But remember, God is at work. Jesus is at work. And if you can work with Him, so much the better. It will be a very joyful Sabbath. Yeah. Okay. If you were to talk to my senior pastor when I was an intern, you have problems, brothers and sisters. We have a problem in this church. I read Luke 4:16. As his custom was, Jesus was in the synagogue. Jesus was in church every Sabbath. I look for you. You're not there. You're not following Jesus. That's what he said. I don't want to preach like that, okay? Because you can go to church and be miserable in church. God doesn't like that either. You want to go to church, be joyful, and take delight on the Sabbath day. Because God meant it to be delightful, to worship Him. Cool. All right.
How about coming at 11:30?
Okay, how many more commandments are we going into? 613 commandments. Don't fall into the trap, into the rabbinical nitty-gritty details of the Sabbath. Just tell them the Sabbath is a blessing from God. Enjoy it, okay? Enjoy the Sabbath with God, and God will make it very, very enjoyable to you. Oh yeah, especially if Rufus has been tired of following. It's okay. Jesus took a nap, okay? But, you know, Leo, I'll only have a problem. I look at the Bible, it doesn't say, and Jesus slept as his custom was. he went to this house. That was just a joke. No, it was just a joke. But I mean, Jesus was also tired. I mean, I need, after maybe today, I'll probably find rest tonight. I'll rest and do some stuff. But please don't waste the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a fine time to work with God. It will be a delight and a pleasure.
How about if all the teachers will attend and visit?
Okay. Don't ask me hard questions, okay? We will work on that. We'll talk this. All right. Let's close with a word of prayer. Dear Father, thank you for the study we had this afternoon. Really, the Sabbath was meant for you to give us delight in worshiping you. Teach us to find ways to really have an adventure with you every weekend and find pleasure in keeping the Sabbath with you, working with you for the sustenance and the redemption of souls. And as you promised, dear Father, give us the joy of making you the Lord of our lives and the Lord of the Sabbath. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.